Welcome, everyone. I'm Daniel Wallace, and we're delighted to have you be a part of our Zoom live spring production of It Can't Happen Here. This cast and crew came together barely 4 weeks ago. That's not long in theater time. But as we watched armed right-wing provocateurs threaten peaceful protesters, as we listened to an American president call to lock up his political opponents, we wanted to take a stand for a different America, a better one, starting at home. We're raising money tonight for Get Out the Vote efforts across the swing state of North Carolina. Each one of us has strong North Carolina roots, and we've joined together for North Carolinians and for the rest of y'all too. It Can't Happen Here tells the story of the unthinkable, the fascist takeover of the United States by an American president. It was first a 1935 best-selling novel by Sinclair Lewis. How it became a play is quite a story. President Franklin D. Roosevelt had just started the New Deal. Hallie Flanagan was named the director of a brand new Back to Work project for theater people. And even though he had a major studio working on a script, Lewis donated the theater rights of his bestseller to his new WPA relief project. So Hallie Flanagan dreamed big. She planned a nationwide opening for It Can't Happen Here in 22 cities in 17 states on October 27th, 1936. Federal theater was barely 1 year old. It almost didn't happen. Lewis was holed up in a hotel room with frustrated collaborator John Moffat as they agonized over the adaptation, and more they're discussed with one another. Flanagan, the national director of Federal Theater, ended up being a go-between as the two men increasingly refused to communicate with one another. Meanwhile, missives were flying in from all over the country days before production, all shouting some version of, "We cannot learn our parts until we have a final script." A final script was finally produced. The night went off beautifully. Sold out productions in New York, productions in Spanish in Tampa, and Yiddish in New York City, an African-American production in Seattle. After that first wild night, the show ran for the equivalent of 5 years, and more than 500,000 people saw it. It's a great story, but it leaves out one very important character. In 1934, Dorothy Thompson became the first foreign journalist expelled from Nazi Germany. Dorothy Thompson had interviewed Adolf Hitler in 1931. 24 hours after her book, I Saw Hitler, was published in 1934, she was ordered out of Berlin. In 1935, she wrote, "No people ever recognize their dictator in advance. He never stands for election on the platform of dictatorship. He always represents himself as the instrument of incorporated national will. When our dictator turns up, you can depend on it that he will be one of the boys, and he will stand for everything traditionally American. And nobody will ever say Heil to him, nor will they call him Führer or Duce. But they will greet him with one great, big, universal, democratic, sheep-like bleat of okay, chief." Dorothy Thompson, whose broadcasts after Kristallnacht in 1938 clarified the moral imperative of working on behalf of German Jews, was married to Sinclair Lewis. This play evokes a world long gone, a world where a room of leather-bound books creates a refuge from the hurly-burly of modernism, a world where clattering typewriters and party-line telephone chatter signal up-to-date communication technology. This play should be a museum piece. Instead, it's eerily predictive script that comments on the events of our time. In June 2016, the backbone of this cast staged a reading on the 80th anniversary of Federal Theater's opening night, October 26, 2016. That night, Lewis's warning about the danger of fascist terror in the US again drew a standing ovation. 12 days later, Americans went to the polls and elected Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. It can't happen here. That is always up to us.
Is your land, this land is my land, from California to New York Island, to the Gulf waters, to the island. This land was made for you and me. I went walking down Ribbon Highway. I saw below me the endless skyway. I saw below me the endless valley. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me. This land was made for you and me.
Place, the United States of America. Time, very soon, or never. Scene, we are on the plateau of a hilltop a few miles from the small city of Fort Beulah in Vermont. On this June afternoon, Doremus Jessup and Lorinda Pike are going on a picnic with friends and family. Doremus is the widowed owner and editor of the Fort Beulah Informer. Lorinda is one of his reporters and the editor of the women's page.
What's the matter with fishing?
Everything is the matter with fishing.
There's nothing the matter with fishing.
Fishing's a... What a view! Fishing is for lazy men.
Lazy? My Lord, I'm so glad to be out of the office today. Forget this damn national convention. And I'm glad to have a chance to talk to you.
Chance to talk to me? What do you think you do all day long at the office? Gabbing and talking and playing games. And me, trying to write about crop yields and women's activities.
Well, you like having me talk to you, don't you?
Well, maybe.
Sort of.
A little.
Anyway, the corporatives can hardly nominate Buzz Windrip before midnight.
Let's hope they never nominate him.
I keep asking you, what's the matter with Windrip? You're always so vague. He may not be any Daniel Webster, but he's a real man of the people.
Yes, I know, I am vague. So's the whole country. Unemployment, drought, social unrest, fear of getting dragged into another world war, fear everywhere. And along comes a medicine man with the loudest voice in the whole world, and he shouts that if we'll just put ourselves in his hands, our souls and our bodies, our little trades, and the education of our children, then he will do a miracle. No.
Well, of course,
Leading a small group coming up the hill is
Doremus's grandson, David.
Struggling behind with varying demonstrations of fitness are
Doremus's daughter, Mary.
And his son-in-law, Fowler, a doctor.
Clarence Little, a town grocer.
Frank Tasbro.
who owns a manufacturing plant.
And farmer Henry Veeder.
Toiling last and carrying a bulging basket is
Shad Ledoux, Doremus's hired man.
Last year, we did only about a third of the business of 1928.
Uniform.
Mom, Dad, come on. Hurry up, everybody.
Pretty nice grandson I've got, anyway.
He's a darling.
Hello. Grandpa, you and Miss Pike are regular mountain goats. Come on, Pop. Attaboy. Come on, Mom.
Good work, old man.
Well, thank you kindly.
Who in the dickens is that with Frank Tasbro?
A patient of mine, Henry Veeder. a farmer down there. The other is Vita's cousin, Clarence Little, the grocer. Mind they're coming? Mind, Lindy?
Don't call me Aunt Lindy.
Weighs a ton.
Chocolate cake, coconut cake, ice cream.
Yeah, me. I had to turn the ice cream freezer. God, why don't you folks get an electric freezer?
Hey, look, Mom's target rifle.
Better not play with that rifle, son. Your mother's the only one who shoots a gun in this family.
Well, now that we're all here, let's eat.
Yeah.
Oh, I could eat a whole pig. I'm so hungry.
Senator Windrip has swept the party nomination process.
And the electoral votes look like a win for the corporative party this year.
Please pass the ketchup.
Crops are flooded out east, I've heard.
After a bone dry summer.
I don't like it. Too much control.
Pass the sandwiches, please.
Hey, Frank, any more news on the radio about the convention?
Not when I left, but Senator Windrip is sure to be nominated.
I hope not.
Lorinda, you're a regular communist. If you had to run a big textile mill and try to find some mechanic that knew his business, young folks today simply won't learn. They've forgotten how to use their legs, the way they run around in automobiles and forgotten to use their heads. Now, Senator Windrip doesn't aim to be any dictator. He just wants folks to be disciplined of their own free will, and if they won't, he'll make them. Look at Julian Falk. Look at the way he's perked up since he put on a corpo uniform. Now, how am I going to make cotton fabrics at a decent profit if every darn sharecropper and railroad employee and mill hand demands hours and wages and God knows what all to suit his own selfish, grasping notions? Yes, sir. We've got to have coordination with one strong man as coordinator.
Hey, bet your life.
Something to that, Mr. Tazbro. I don't think I'm such a mean boss, but the young fellas these days, they want $40, $50 a month and food.
Well, personally, I don't much like the idea of anybody coordinating me. But these days, when you've got so many deadbeats...
Yes, I know. And just won't keep their houses clean and insist it's because they're poor.
Frank, I hate to agree with you about anything. Always did. But for once, I think you're right. Young folks today, they get nothing but machine-made music and machine-made drama and machine-made traveling, and they've gotten soft. I know how Lindy thinks about our old pioneer forebears, but they didn't believe in a machine age, and we do. So I guess we've just got to accept a little machine-made discipline. And that's why my paper has been kind of backing the corpos against Walt Trowbridge and the People's Party. It's not so much that I trust Windrip as that I trust that. Look at it. God's own free, open American country. And this is just one little New England valley. Think of all that's beyond. The Arizona desert, the Mississippi Delta, richest land on earth, the Oregon forests, the Carolina Piedmont. Do you know how big Texas is? Big as any 3 European countries put together. This isn't any one-horse country that a dictator could get hold of. No, sir, it's too big. Dictatorship? It can't happen here.
No, sir.
It sure can't. For 100 years, my folks have been living on my land. Anybody tried to dictate to me, I'd just laugh.
Who's that coming? Well, it's Julian in that famous corpo uniform.
We win! We win! Buzz Windrip's the party's nominee!
Oh. Sounds of gathered crowd, voices of adults talking and children yelling, faint music. It is 3 o'clock in the neighborhood grocery store of Clarence Little. People are milling about on the sidewalk. They are apparently waiting for some kind of patriotic event. Children hold cheap American flags and wave them wildly on occasion.
How about some laundry soap, Mrs. Wickham? We got a special on if you take a whole case of it.
Not today, I'm afraid, Clarence. I couldn't lug it to the car. They won't let you park on Main Street today because of the parade.
The parade. Buzz Windrip and his marching clubs, keeping cars off Main Street. Well, I'll go to the mayor.
Don't know what good it'll do you.
People around here won't stand for people monkeying with their rights. My grandfather didn't fight in the Civil War for nothing.
Well, I don't know what the world is coming to. Young folks staying up until 11:30, thinking you're a tyrant if you tell them to get in at a decent hour. At least the Corpo Marching Club stand for discipline.
Well, I believe in freedom. Better let the kids stay up than be bossed all the time. How's Caroline?
Oh, her arm's knitting fine.
Tell her here's a present from the grocery man.
Thank you, Clarence. Why, there's the parade. You know, I sort of like the music and uniforms.
So did Grandpa, but he don't now. In the churchyard.
Corpus are coming, hurrah, hurrah. Corpus are coming to capture New England. The corpus are coming, hurrah, hurrah. The corpus are coming, hurrah, hurrah. The corpus are coming, hurrah, hurrah. The corpus are coming to capture New England. The corpus are coming, hurrah, hurrah.
Buzz Windrip is a dictator. Support the People's Party.
Tin soldiers, drugstore cowboys, Boy Scouts, yeah, corpos, want to be dictators? Dictators, dictators. Jim Nickerson, Corporal Nickerson, deadbeat. How about that $20 you owe me? Deadbeat, corpos, dictators.
As Clarence stands yelling in his doorway, he is suddenly pushed back into his shop by a high-ranking officer of the Corpos.
Effingham Swan. Noisy little man, aren't you?
Well, who's going to stop me?
Oh, perhaps I should introduce myself. I am Commissioner Swan. I'm Senator Windrip's representative. I believe we're going to stop you. Work on him, will you? Might as well get used to it. And mind those new uniforms.
Four men grab Clarence and begin methodically punching and kicking him.
Corpus are coming, hurrah, hurrah. Corpus are coming, hurrah, hurrah. Corpus are coming to capture New England. The corpus are coming, hurrah, hurrah. Corpus are coming, hurrah, hurrah. The corpus are coming, hurrah, hurrah. Corpus are coming to capture New England. The corpus are coming, hurrah, hurrah.
Inside the window of Dormus Jessup's living room, it's a cozy scene.
Fine-looking body of young men. Mighty nice of you to invite me, Dormus. Best place in town to see a parade.
Mighty glad to have you, Frank. I guess this window's the one thing I've got on a plutocrat like you.
Now, this military drill may have its faults, but it does keep the young people off the street corners. I tell you, a doctor sees some awful results from all this loafing and unemployment.
What I always say is young fellows with any ability can find something to do, same as I did.
Start off washing dishes and get to be a great manufacturer like you.
Well, why not? Whatever modest wealth I may have made is entirely due to my own unaided enterprise.
Itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout.
Quiet, son.
Did you know the black widow spiders are poisonous?
Yes, I never saw a case, though. This drill certainly pulls them together.
Young bullies.
Now, Lindy, maybe they scrap a little like all boys do, but you never heard of the corpos hurting anybody.
And you never will. But you take the lazy workmen, and you know who I mean. You never hear of them getting pleasure out of doing an honest day's work. Huh, no, sir. All they holler for is higher wages and shorter hours, labor unions, regular communists.
Good afternoon.
Down came the rain and washed the spider out.
Mr. Jessup, this is Commissioner Swan from Boston, our new Corpo Party manager for Vermont.
And your cruel boss, young fella me lad.
That's right, sir. Mr. Jessup, you were the first person in town the commissioner wanted to meet.
We've been more or less supporting the corpos at the paper.
Oh, no one knows it better than I. It might surprise you to know we read your editorials in the Boston headquarters.
This is Miss Lorinda Pike. She reports on town goings-on and edits the society page.
Are you a corpo?
Oh, I try to be, Captain.
Oh, I'm not a corpo. I'm Superman.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Superman.
I'm gonna save the city.
It's a big job, but somebody's got to do it.
I'm going to.
Toy machine guns at Davy's age. There's your corpo influence.
Better than dolls, ma'am.
Well, don't worry about that, boy. He'll be the scholar I wanted to be. Commissioner, my son-in-law, Dr. Greenhill. He, my daughter, and David here are living with me here since my wife passed away.
Certainly is a pleasure to know you, Commissioner. They offered me the medical officership of the corporal unit here, but we're building a new wing on the hospital.
And this is Mr. Tasbro, our chief manufacturer.
I suppose you've already dropped in at my little textile mill, Commissioner. Too bad I was away.
No, sorry, haven't had a chance yet.
Why, it's the biggest single industry in the country. And I've been ordering, well, you might say urging the hands to vote corpo.
Splendid.
I understood you were coming.
And here I am, my dear fellow.
I was all ready for you. In fact, I had my party contribution all ready. Here it is, my boy. $1,000. 1,000 bright gold dollars.
Error, I'm afraid, sir. I understood your quota was 5,000.
5,000?
So I think we'd rather not have you as a contributor at all. We thought of you as one of our inner council, but we don't care for anyone who isn't as passionate about our ideas.
Well, if that's the way you feel about it.
That's just the way we feel about it.
Well, I can't fool around any longer. I'm a busy man, on the job. Must go.
Yes. Well, goodbye.
My wife, Mary, Commissioner. She's the best corpo on this whole neck of the woods. A great believer in training.
Indeed, I am. I hope David will grow up to be a corpo. Dad, where is my little Superman?
Out playing. He's all right.
Wasn't it a nice parade? I saw it from upstairs.
Well, I'm glad you appreciated it.
Oh, yes, I did. So sorry. I must dash down to the grocery store before it closes. Our maid would have the afternoon off to see the parade. Honestly, I don't know what's come over people. No gratitude, no loyalty, and the wages they demand.
Well, they deserve all the wages.
You got to wash dishes for a lot of.
All right, you Abraham Lincolns, Jessup and Pike, the friends of the forgotten man.
Oh, that's us. That's our show. The League of Forgotten Men will declare for Buzz Windrip.
I'll leave you to fight it out. Bye. Goodbye, Commissioner. I'll take the $5, Fowler. Afraid to leave it for Reds like Aunt Lindy.
Don't call me Aunt Lindy.
Hey, Aunt Lindy.
So, the League of Forgotten Men will endorse Windrip, you think?
It's certain. Windrip is making his first pilgrimage to Pastor Prang's Little Brown Church in the Vale, and they'll broadcast together. Who knows? This afternoon may be as historic as the Battle of Lexington. You must all listen in, especially you, ma'am. You'll get a better idea of Senator Windrip's real passion for justice.
I will. If they can convince me. All right.
Dad.
I can't help it.
You, ever in the Army?
No, sir.
Military training?
Militia, sir.
What rank?
Corporal, sir.
All right. It's a husky hired man you've got there.
Yes. Little cocky, though. Feels superior to domestic work. We only took him in because he begged us to. Made a god-awful failure of a turkey farm.
Yes, what Shad needs.
Shad?
Shad Ledoux. That's his name. All he needs is a slight operation on his head. Amputation. I should say a caputectomy.
I ought to fire him, but I've been doing a little social experiment, training him to be pretty near as polite as the average Neanderthal.
Well, I'm pretty sure you failed, at least so far. Delighted to meet you, Commissioner.
And we must be going.
Oh, stay and listen to the broadcast.
Ah, but I must listen to it with my staff. It might surprise you to see the inspiration we get from the chief. Winthrop's the born leader, and that's just what we need, desperately. The people are soft and think of nothing but what they call freedom. Freedom to shoot off their mouths.
Freedom to shoot off your mouth is an American tradition.
That's not in our ancestors' tradition. Not the tradition of your father, the old minister.
How did you know my father was a minister?
If this nation is not regalvanized into the spirit of 76, any foreign power could walk in and subject every single one of us to slavery.
Like we've done a little subjecting ourselves. Oh, corpos intend everything. They tell the workers unions will be sacred. They tell the well-to-do they'll lower taxes. They tell the poor they're to have $2,500 a year when they're 60.
Now, Lindy, that's unfair. Downright unsporting. In a political campaign, to remember all the political speeches and what they add up to?
It is not. Mr. Commissioner, can you reconcile all your on the other hand business?
Yes. The American government has been utterly wasteful. It must stop. We don't want any more congressmen pretending to represent the people while they're only out for their own glory. We're going to make Congress responsible to one man. Call him a dictator if you must. Afraid of a word?
Of that word?
A lot of people are being killed by it all over the world.
Death may be better than slavery to Europe. Let's go.
Oh my word.
No, he's a nice fellow. He doesn't believe all this one-man stuff.
Maybe. Well, I must go.
Brenda looks out the window at the dying landscape of the old year.
The leaves are all faded. Fall. It makes me feel old. No more picnics for us this year, Dormus.
No, guess not. It's always next year.
Who knows where we'll be next year?
Sorry to bother you. A note. The commissioner just scribbled in the car. Oh, it's not for you, Mr. Jessup. It's for Shad.
Well, Shad's coming up in the world. Shad! Shad!
What do you want?
Letter for you.
Harry abruptly bolts in through the door.
I'm all right now, safe home. Where is Davy?
He's outside playing around. What is it?
Oh, Dad, something horrible. I went to Clarence Little's grocery, remember? I was going to buy bread and milk for tomorrow, maybe a pork roast. And where's Fowler? I was just walking down the sidewalk. There was a crowd. The pavement was all smeary. There was a sheet. Dad, Clarence has been killed. I talked to Charlie Betts, your reporter. He said maybe the corpos had done it.
Good Lord, Clarence? Dead? Why would they kill Clarence? I'll call the office. Stay calm, honey. 421. Hello, informer? Mr. Jessup speaking. Let me speak to Charlie. Charlie, what about this Clarence Little business?
Davy! Davy!
Ah, gee, Mom, we were just playing corpos and robbers.
Come in. It's time to go upstairs. There's so many strangers in town today. Come, now. I want to read you a story.
No, don't wire it. Telephone it to the Associated Press. Hustle. Poor Clarence. Got killed all right. Charlie's not sure the corpos did it. There was a row in the store. This is big news. First killing anywhere in the country in this election.
Listen, maybe this is a crazy idea, but Senator Winthrop must be at the Little Brown Church right now, getting ready to broadcast. Call him. Get him to say something on the radio. So even if it was his gang that killed Clarence, they'll never do it.
That's crazy.
I don't care. It's your duty. It's happened in your town. You're the editor.
In the first place, I never could get him. And every blamed politician will be on his tail. And if I could, he'd think I had a lot of nerve. Might as well call the Queen of England.
Oh, I suppose so. You're just like the rest. You think I'm a crazy lady sticking her nose into everyone's business. Let's all laugh at Lorinda, the town crank.
I will not. And neither will anyone else. If you want Buzz Windrip called, he gets called. Hello, Fort Beulah 103 speaking, person-to-person call. I want to speak personally to Senator Windrip. W-I-N-D-R-I-P. Or his secretary. At the Little Brown Church of the Vale. They must have some kind of phone there.
Little Brown Church in the Vale?
Yes, New York.
Yes, Miami. I'll connect you with the secretary. Secretary 2, Miami calling. Secretary 9, Seattle calling.
Yes, Denver.
Yes, Charlotte.
Yes, Houston.
Yes, Atlanta. I'll connect you right away.
Yes, San Simeon, right away.
Little Brown Church in the Vale. Yes, Fort Beulah. Oh my. I'll see if I can connect you with Pastor Prang's own secretary. He'll try to get the message through to Senator Windrip. Secretary, Fort Beulah 8. I don't know, just some nobody in Vermont.
Meanwhile, at the Little Brown Church in the Vale, we see a figure in a spotlight. That figure is the celebrated radio puppeteer and clerical politician,
Pastor Paul Peter Prang.
eloquent, sincere, yet so hungry for publicity and power.
Senator Windrip and his secretary, Mr. Saracen, have arrived, Pastor.
One moment. Light, man. Come up on your ambers and dim your blues.
Okie doke, Pastor.
A little more amber.
But who's gonna see it, Pastor?
God sees it.
Lights come up in the broadcasting chamber to reveal 3 men, grouped like the fates, weaving the destiny of America. Prang, having made his introduction of Windrip, sits on an episcopal throne with his hands reverently folded on his stomach. On the other side of the room sits
Lee Saracen.
whom we shall see again. He is Buzz's man of all dirty work. At the microphone, we have Buzz Windrip,
Senator Berzelius Windrip,
Corporative Party candidate for President of the United States.
and the kid glove element in the People's Party keeps returning to their favorite charge against us, that I'm a redneck, a mucker, just a common man. Since they know that I won every important law case I ever fought, including some before those high and mighty billy goats, the justices of the Supreme Court, they claim that when he appears before some big la-di-da, that Buzz Windrip doesn't wear a dress suit and a velvet collar, but just plain, ordinary blue jeans. Well, they're right. A plain man, darn near as plain and common as Abe Lincoln, or that old Virginia hick farmer, George Washington, that when he chased the redcoats from the land, half of his troops did it, by golly, with a pitchfork.
An assistant tiptoes across the room and hands Lee Saracen a pile of memos, including one about a phone call from some small town in Vermont.
Yes, sir. If in my hands be placed the sacred obligations of the presidency, I won't conduct it one bit better than such poor white trash as Washington, Lincoln, Andy Jackson, and Warren Gamaliel Harding.
Saracen hands Buzz one of the memos, which Buzz reads while steadily talking.
And cross my heart, as we used to say when I was a little one-gallish shaver among the cornfields, I have not bribed those People Party sissies to elect me by their highbrow revelation of my hickishness. And so, this matter of humble worth brings me to the question of foreign policy. And have I got one, my enemies ask? You bet your life. If there's one thing that I haven't got anything but, it's a clear, ringing, traditional American slant on foreign policies. America is the one and only country in the world of which it can be said that she has never entered an unjust or unnecessary war, and never lost one. Right in the beginning, when our glorious forebears first landed here, the treacherous Redskins attacked our humble settlements, and we had to drive them off. So now, we ought to go forth into the councils of state, not asking for anything, but telling them. And meanwhile, I intend to build up adequate defenses. And the least America can contemplate with her peculiar mission in the world is an army equal to any other 2 armies in the world. And that is, we have to clean our house in our diplomatic corps and replace all those denatured cookie pushers. And you know what I'm talking about, right? You know exactly what I mean. With real Americans.
I know what he means. I don't like it.
Domestic and foreign are based on just one principle: to scientifically help the downtrodden true Americans become equals of any Shakespeare or any money-wallowing international Jewish banker that ever lived. And so, farewell, my neighbors.
Neighbor to a rattlesnake.
Shh. Except for a memo that has just been handed to me and which I have had to ponder, even while I've been talking to you. To my tragic horror, I find that not 1 hour ago, you'll see it in the papers tomorrow, but I'm going to tell millions of you now. A most unfortunate occurrence occurred in the beautiful little city of Fort Beulah, Vermont. A very fine and substantial merchant of that city was fatally injured in a scuffle, and my enemies are trying to place the blame on the corpos. Well, I have secret information of what did happen, and it exonerates the corpos. But if I did not know the truth, if any corpo in any way were to blame, I would cast him forth into the wilderness. Nay, if it were my last follower, for if any harm be done unto the least of these, verily it was done unto...
Lorinda sharply turns off the radio, though Doris...
Hey, I want to hear the rest.
Leave it off.
He certainly did all he could to...
All he's gonna do.
Back again, Julian? Got another love letter for Shad?
No, sir. It's for you this time, but it is from Commissioner Swan.
Dear Mr. Jessup, we shall be honored if you will accept the enclosed appointment as Honorary Corporative Subcommissioner for Beulah County. There are no duties involved except your expression of approval for what we are endeavoring to do. I beg to remain, sir, your humble servant, E. Swan. A bit fancy for me.
But it's not funny. It's meant as a future bribe, in case there should be any more trouble, like the murder of Clarence Little.
We don't know it was murder.
It was an accident. The commissioner was all broken up about it. He investigated right away. You know, Mr. Little did drink too much. What happened was he got to scuffling with some of the fellows and one of them pushed him. I mean, he fell down and he hit his head against the counter. That's what happened.
Maybe. Lindy, I ought to accept this appointment. If some of the younger element in the corpos tend to be rowdy, all the more reason why I should take part. I can be a good influence.
You can only influence a machine gun from one end of it.
The corpos aren't comic book villains, Lindy. Isn't Julian here one? And we've known him since he was a toddler.
That's what worries me. A nice boy like you running around playing tin soldier? And after getting a good Dartmouth education, why don't you get yourself a nice, smart girlfriend?
Girlfriend? As if I wouldn't give anything for one.
But Julian...
As though any ordinary kid without a rich father can afford to even buy a girl a Coca-Cola these days. They told me if I did well in college, there would be a good job waiting for me. Well, I did go to college. I got honors, and they were the last thing I got. I've begged for a job, any kind of job.
But you did work.
I have worked exactly 4 months during the past year, and that's better than most of my classmates. Youth today aren't looking for fame and fortune. We're yelling for jobs. And the corpos will find one for me. They'll tell me what to do and they'll feed me. They'll shake off this bungling system, democracy. They'll order things so that we can make a living. We're not thieves, we're realists. And we're working together behind Windrip. And when he wins, then I'll find a girlfriend.
Shad Ledoux suddenly appears, noisily kicks the basement door open. He tramps into the room wearing his best suit and carrying a suitcase.
Dad?
I want my pay. I'm quitting.
Well, I don't entirely dislike the notion, but you did say you wanted to stay with us. You longed to stay with us all winter.
Oh, with that, I want my pay. You're not going to try and hold out on my dough, are you?
Not at all. It's a pleasure.
Right. Julian, take my suitcase to the bus stop.
Have I got to?
Gotta do a lot of things. Do my eyes deceiveth me, or artist thou a corpo private?
What has that got to do with...
Swans made me a sergeant, full time. So take that suitcase out. Bye-bye, Papa. So long, Aunt Lindy. Now, you two, keep your hands off each other and keep yourselves out of the bushes.
We'll say it.
Don't call me Aunt Lindy.
A few weeks later, we are gathered at the balcony of the Fort Beulah Hotel at 6 a.m. It's hung with posters like, "Welcome to Windrip," and "We play no favorites, but glad to see you, sir." The street is packed with people come to see Buzz, now campaigning for the presidency. There are corpos standing next to members of the American Legion and women with Daughters of the American Revolution sashes standing next to merchants and farmers. And everywhere there are children. Lots and lots of children. Buzz comes through the French windows out onto the balcony. He is yawning and his hair is mussed, but he smiles and waves and the crowd goes wild.
Well, this is a hell of a way to earn a living. 2 hours sleep. I wish the guys that say I want to be some kind of dictator would travel through the country with us. Believe me, I know dictators. They live in big houses and sleep till 10 a.m. and have beautiful girls. I mean the most beautiful girls. Bring them breakfast on gold dishes. But on this trip, we've got time for about 1 meal a day. And it's always old Mrs. Pullman's Southern-style hash. Now, but seriously, folks, my people were wrong when they thought this trip was to educate people about Buzz. No, it's me that got educated. What grand people I've been meeting. 50,000 Iowa farmers in one inspiring crowd. Citrus growers in Golden, Florida. A great, magnificent procession of miners in West Virginia. 1 million office workers in New York City, the whole length of Broadway, from the Battery to pretty near the North Pole. And now you, the mill hands and maple growers and dairy farmers from Vermont. But my friends, everywhere I have found the true American people divided, kept apart by the politicians who put their own selfishness and corruption before the very people who sent them to Washington. If you honor me with your votes, I shall not be the president. No, I shall not be the president. I will be the telephone line through which every man and woman in this great land can get in touch with every other American, so that for the first time since 1861, we can be joined in one unified nation that will sweep the world.
Let me through, I tell you. Dad, you gotta get out of this.
Eh?
I just talked to Clarence Little's widow.
If any of you believes that I'm a dictator,
The corpos murdered Clarence. Scared her into keeping quiet.
let him hear and now strike me down.
Head beaten in with blackjacks.
See, I bare my breast to the assassin's bullet.
Stuck a knife in his back.
But that shall never be. I love all of you. I love the American citizens.
3.5 months later, in the editorial sanctum of the Fort Beulah Informer, things are a mess. But then, always, the office has been untidy. Walls are covered with framed pages and posters announcing bygone county fairs. In the center, the two venerable desks of Dormus and Lorinda are as expressive of marital bliss as two twin beds side by side. At the moment, Lorinda is seated at her desk typing, while Dormus listens to the woes of Francis Tasbro.
What I'd like to see you say in your editorial is, the government may have to monkey with agriculture, but it's got to keep its hands off business. Windrop's been in office a month, and have the big industrialists seen any gratitude? It was a fine move for the government to chase all the idle bums into work camps and rent them to private industry for 75 cents a day.
It was slavery.
But the point is, even with wages way down, I'm not making any profits. Taxes are terrible. A new tax on industry every 5 minutes. Interferences from inspectors. Worst bunch of racketeers I ever saw.
Been making you hire a lot of corpos?
And none of them know anything. Well, I hope you have the courage to use the facts I've given you. Don't pussyfoot. Business is being strangled.
Having made his point, Tasbro takes up his fedora and exits importantly.
This room isn't big enough for that man's hat. The nerve of him telling you to have courage after the way you've criticized the corpos.
That's what an editor's for. I wonder if these schools of journalism give the bright kids instruction in how to smile while getting kicked. I haven't got the nerve.
My dear, I know about the anonymous notes. Lynching.
I knew somebody had been prowling through my desk. Don't worry, those notes are probably a joke. Some clown like Shad, or maybe the kids who have been running up and down the alley all the time.
The men who tortured the Massachusetts editor weren't kids.
Oh, well, what the dickens, Linda? You know how much it means to me to have you here, but just the same, I've been thinking it over. I want you to resign.
Then there is danger.
No, hell no. But You're getting jumpy. You'll be telling the truth one of these days.
You want me to quit now?
Yeah, well, yes. I have an AP flash from Washington. I'm waiting for the follow-up. 100 members of Congress and 6 members of the Supreme Court have been put under protective arrest.
What? I can't believe that. Things like that can't happen in America.
They started happening the day Buzz Windrip was inaugurated, the day he armed the corpos. Oh God, I wish I could get the rest of the story from Washington. Something's holding it up.
That means national censorship?
Protective censorship. That's why you gotta get out of this, honey.
I won't.
You've got to.
No, won't.
Please go home. I don't want you here.
Dormis, Daniel, Jessup, I have never in my life heard such a wicked lie. Never. You can fire me and fire me and fire me, and I'll always be here, right here at my desk at 9 o'clock every single morning.
You will not. You've never been less than 15 minutes late, and you never will be. Dan? Dan! Dan!
Horses, I'm coming.
Enter Dan Wilgus in an inky apron.
Here's the proof. We'll run the editorial after all.
We'll do no such thing.
You make up that proof. You make up that page right now and make this the lead editorial.
Can't.
What do you mean can't?
I mean, I've been reading through it again. We're not going to have no such a piece in any paper I make up. Talking about corpo machine guns? You want to have them turned on us?
Are you scared?
Scared? Me? Listen, I'm so scared, I ruined myself. Remember that editor out in Kansas 2 weekdays ago? The corpos tied him to the press and set it on fire. That's why I dumped this galley.
They didn't burn any printers, did they? Only the editor.
Well, I wasn't thinking of the editor. I was thinking of the printing press. I'll bet that fire took the paint off it. And that's a nice press we got downstairs.
Aha, very funny.
Where do you think you're going?
I'm going to set this editorial myself.
All right. If you're bound and determined to be a hero, I suppose I'll be one too. 19 years, and now you're starting to get your way.
18 years.
Oh, hey, boss. Here's a big corpo brute to see you. Don't say I didn't warn you.
Enter David in an imitation corpo uniform and his mother, Mary. Proudly, David marches up to Dormis and gives him a big salute.
I can't hear you, David. Can you unmute yourself?
Salute, Private.
What's he got on?
I know it's silly, but Julian gave it to him. Imagine, bought it out his first week's salary.
For the last 20 years, thank God, the only uniform you ever saw in America was the Salvation Army or the Kiss for Coolness ice cream vendor.
I like my uniform.
Of course, great men have worn uniforms, but you can be a soldier of science too. Going to see Fowler?
No, I was going to go to the hospital, but he's so worried. I didn't want to tell you, but of course the paper will get it anyway. Dad, it's the most dreadful thing the corpos have done. I thought it was pretty bad when they started interfering with you. Of course, the press ought to have freedom, but now they've laid their hands on medicine. Do you know what Commissioner Swan has done? He's put in charge of the hospital over Fowler's head, that horrible gland treatment quack who Fowler got run out of the County Medical Association. Will you protest it in the paper? Will you?
Yes, I'll try to if there's any paper left to protest in.
Can I have a quarter, Granddad?
What do you want a quarter for, General?
I want to go buy another cannon at the 5 and 10. I'm going to...
Cannons, guns, brass bands.
Yes, of course, it's too much. I don't want you to have any more soldiers. Bye, Dad. Take care of yourself.
As Mary is saying goodbye, we hear the sound of the printing press starting in the basement, and then the sound of Dan coming back up the stairs.
I got your blame editorial reset.
As Doremus looks over the editorial, the sound of machinery becomes louder. Dan yawns and looks at his fingernails. Suddenly, a total stoppage of the sound of the press.
What the?
Dan dashes to the door, and there outside, standing rigidly in their military uniforms, are Effingham Swan and Shad Ledoux. Behind them are many more corpo privates, including Julian Falk.
You! Outside!
Swan, do you have anything to do with that machinery stopping?
Almost everything, I should think.
Swan has been moving closer to Doremus, trying to see what he's still holding in his hand. He springs suddenly, alarmingly, as if he's going to choke Doremus. Instead, he grabs the editorial, then strolls to a chair.
Murder by machine gun. Very pretty alliteration. I congratulate you, Doremus.
You may call me Mr. Jessup, Swan.
Oh, between friends? Jessup, I came here to raise hell with you about your seditious criticisms of the corporative government, but I hadn't expected anything as obscene as this new affront! Instead of just giving you friendly advice, I'm going to... Sergeant Ledoux.
Yes, sir?
Station a couple of privates by the door. You sit here at the desk and take notes.
Sir.
According to a new decree, my dear Doremus, I'm not only in political and military in charge of this district, I have the power to hold court-martial. With myself as judge, prosecutor, and defense. And you'd be delighted to know how well the three of me agree.
I don't really care for cat and mouse games. If this is a trial, what are the charges?
Charges? Oh, just little things. High treason, and incitement to murder, and, oh, you know, the usual dreary legal tidbits. Little things, easily gotten rid of if you would just remember that you're an older man and you have responsibilities to your family. It would be totally awful. Oh, it makes me sick to even think about it, really. If anything were to happen to them. Now, if you were to go along with us, I could let you in on some excellent secret plans, and you would see everything in a new light.
Oh, Jessup couldn't see a new light if it was at the end of his nose.
Hush, my excellent sergeant. And, of course, Jessup, I do want to urge you to consider the benefits of giving me a list of all the people who you know who are opposed to the corporative administration.
Lying? No.
One ought to take you out and shoot you. Oh, but it might be more amusing to keep you here. So, my official decision, quite official, Doremus, is that from now on, the new editor of this paper is Sergeant Ledoux.
Shad?
Your old and loving coworker. You may continue working here, but Sergeant Ledoux will tell you exactly what to write.
Doremus starts to get up. Who knows what he has in mind? Something vague and violent stirs his emotions. The corpo privates step back, but as Shad roughly pushes Doremus back...
And if he complains, then a little instruction with...
Hey! Mr. Greenhill, you can't come in here!
Fowler Greenhill comes in, banging the door.
Swan, I've had enough. One man's going to protest against your corpo swishiness. I shut up. I wanted to keep myself clear for my medical work. Now you've taken that away from me? And on top of that, you started on Jessup.
You're entirely mistaken, my dear doctor. I've been misrepresented. Who phoned you?
None of your business.
At a nod from Swan, Shad and Corpos fall back, so they are just behind Fowler. Shad loosens the .44 automatic in his holster.
I came here to offer Mr. Jessup... Grab him.
Hey.
This comrade bores me. Take the bastard out to the alley and shoot him.
Hey.
powerful Shad and his 2 men are too much for Fowler. They rush him off his feet and out of the door before he can resist.
Whoa.
Dormus struggles to his feet and, holding out his arms like a priest, is about to speak when 2 more corpos enter and stand on guard. Swan throws one leg over the chair and lights another cigarette.
Please.
Hello? No, Mr. Jessup can't come to the phone right now. It's your daughter.
Mary! No!
Oh, she wants to know if you've spoken to someone about the man placed over her husband at the hospital. Let me check with him, Mrs. Greenhill.
Swan puts the phone down on the desk, walks over to the window and looks out. As he does so, the thunder of rifles fired at once fills the air. The crack of a single pistol and silence. Effingham Swan walks back to the phone.
No, Mrs. Greenhill, I'm afraid your father wasn't able to do anything for your husband.
I thought it would be more fun to be president. First American dictator in history, by God. I thought there would be more girls. You know, when you're president, you can do anything you want, kind of stuff. Well, I don't. And I don't get any laughs anymore. And nobody seems to like me, even you. When I was a kid, I didn't get along very well with other kids. But my dad told me our family was special. Genetic superiority. I swore I'd make those kids pay. And I got respect. And I got popular. I never stopped. I climbed right to this office. Now, I'm lonelier than I ever was. Anybody in the appointment book?
Senator Luther of California, about the fruit pickers strike.
Do I have to see him?
I shouldn't think so. We had the strike leader shot yesterday.
Any response I should make to that?
Send them flowers. Flowers are cheap in California.
You're funny.
You're always an inspiration to humor, Mr. President. Mr. Tasbro, representing the Northern New England textile manufacturers, I believe you don't suppose you want them, actually.
Want? Hell yes, I want. Always glad to see industrialists. Shoot him in. Come in, Brother Tasbro.
Awful kind of you to see me, Mr. President. Just brought a few practical suggestions from manufacturers. I know how busy you are here in the White House, and...
This isn't the White House. This is the people's home. Hey, Lee, let's put that down. The name of the White House is to be changed from today to the People's House. Sit down, Tasbro. I'm particularly gratified to have manufacturer cooperation. Labor troubles all cleared up in New England?
Absolutely, Mr. President. Thanks to you.
Now, what can I do for you?
Well, I was chosen to come here by a group of very important, very high-class citizens, several of them millionaires, to put before you our feeling that we're being overtaxed. Why, I myself voluntarily contributed $10,000 to the corpos, though I was only asked for $1,000.
Ah, that's the spirit.
So we feel. After all, I represent what you might call the solid, moneyed interest, and after all, money still holds the whip hand, even in politics.
Yes, I got to admit that, Tasbro. Money...
Sorry to interrupt, President, sir, but we have an important visitor, Pastor Prang. Yeah, he wants to see you immediately.
Oh, yes. I'm expecting the dear fellow. You won't mind if I let the pastor come in for a moment, will you? You've probably heard him on the radio.
Mrs. Tasbro is his biggest fan, but you probably want me to step out.
No. I want you to see how zealously we listen to criticism. You can take word of it back to the industrialists. Sit back.
Prang walks in belligerently, ignoring Buzz's outstretched hand.
Well, Pastor, how is the Humble Brown Church in the Humble Brown Vale?
I have not come here for any small talk. I have come here to denounce the wolves in sheep's clothing, whom to my eternal shame I helped lead to the helpless flock. I criticize this wicked and adulterous administration on the radio. And now I find that your Federal Radio Commission has actually barred me from the air, and members of my league are being herded into labor camps like ordinary tramps. Your corpustars are trying to kill the soul of America that once marched to freedom under the banner of John Brown. They command our ministers of the gospel to preach the glories of an administration supported by scoundrels cloaked in the sanctity of the American flag.
You're just 4.5 months too late, my clerical brother. I can't use you anymore. I'm only going to use 4-minute speakers in the war. That's right, war with Mexico. About 18 months from now, all in the lovely autumn weather.
We're at peace with Mexico.
So far.
Not even a border incident.
Oh, border incidents will be plentifully provided.
You shall not plunge America into war to increase your unholy power.
Always glad to have your advice, Parson, but I'd be careful how I talked treason. That's what the courts would have to call it, preferring a lot of greasers and Jews and God knows what.
Stop that sacrilege. You're worse than he is.
Why, thanks, Padre. But I won't have you shot or even tortured. I'll always love you for the best laugh I ever had in my life, the day you endorsed me in that phony broadcast. Captain, this man has been bleating too loud, talking subversion. Stick him in jail, deep in jail, where none of the good Americans can get at him. We've got to protect free speech. Take the fool out.
Yes, sir. And if there are any inquiries, sir?
He's had a nervous breakdown. Stick him in the insane asylum and keep him there incommunicado.
Very well, sir.
You can't do that. Somewhere in you there must be a small shred of mercy, some goodness.
Hey, Parson, you'll have a nice little room and you can practice your preaching. You can preach your head off and you can pray your head off as much as you want.
And you said you wouldn't torture him.
Oh Lord, our God, shield of the innocent.
Kick him out. He's raving mad already.
If it be thy will that thy ministers shall suffer for their own most grievous blindness, yet in our far absence guide our flocks in thy name.
The aide presses the pastor's shoulder. Prang bows slightly and blindly marches out of the room. Buzz turns to Tarsborough, who has been sitting quietly in the corner of the room.
And now you stinking little stooge. You see how scared I am of the Manufacturers Association or anybody else? You go back home to your association, and next Tuesday, I want you back here with bonds for 15 million.
20.
That's right, 20 million.
We'll be paupers.
Should have thought of that before the election. You paid $10,000 to a campaign fund for discipline. You're getting it.
Mr. Tasbro, didn't you ever hear the definition of dictatorship? Okay. Up to a point, it's government by capitalists, like you, through the hired bullies. After that, it's government by the bullies, like me, through the capitalists.
See? Now get out of here. Hey, where's that sentry?
I'm afraid he's deserted his post, sir.
Deserted? Why?
He said that when he heard the pastor speaking to the secretary here about making fun of that song, he saw red. The whole guard is behaving very peculiarly.
You don't mean mutiny? Well, they're all Marines.
A very peculiar mutiny, sir. They've all started to whistle, and their officers can't make them stop.
To whistle?
Yes, sir. Like this.
Get out of here! Damn that captain! I'll have his hide!
Listen.
They both stand still, listening. Faintly to their ears comes the sound of offstage whistling. A few days later, in Dora Miss Jessup's newspaper office, the decor has changed. On one wall is an imposing portrait of President Winthrop, draped in red, white, and blue. On another is a poster for a corpo meeting. There is now a smaller desk where Doramus sits. Lieutenant Shad Ledoux, in uniform, sits at Doramis's former desk.
What about my printer, Lieutenant?
Hush, I'm thinking. The story about the Corporal Council was okay, but it wasn't enthusiastic enough. No, we want something that real men want to read.
I want to ask about Dan Wilgus.
Oh, what about him?
He tells me you fired him.
Oh, we don't need him. He's no good.
I'm afraid we do need him, Shad.
You don't like the way that I run things?
We need to have somebody who understands printing.
All right, well, if you're so in love with that ink slinger, you get him back. Guy's got 3 kids. He ain't saved any money. No time at all. He'll be at a labor camp, and then we can hire him from the government for 75 cents a day. You ain't a very good businessman, Jessup.
Meanwhile, if we fall down on the posters, Swan will blame me.
Commissioner Swan.
Yes, Commissioner Swan. He might even blame you.
All right, then I'll show you I'm a good guy. You can keep Wilgus, but I don't want you pestering me anymore. Oh, say, me and Swan have decided we're not printing anything about Francis Tasbro killing himself in that hotel.
He was a good friend at one time.
Yeah, whatever. Oh, hey, I just remembered. So there's this new insurance fella in town. I made an appointment for you to see him. He's here now.
Splitting commissions with him then?
Ain't no skin off your nose. Mr. Dimick, come on in.
The man who walks in looks like life has beaten him around a bit. His head hangs down and his hands nervously fiddle with his hat. He wears a drab suit and a drab tie, and he is, in a word, drab.
Come on, make yourself at home. Jessup, this is Mr. Dimick from Albany.
Howdy do, Mr. Jessup. I'd like to analyze your present insurance for you. No charge, no obligation.
I think I'll just head over to the pool hall. Y'all just try and get along without me, Jessup. But if anything important comes up, just phone me.
Bye.
Ain't you forgetting something?
Doramus, looking up slowly and without smiling, executes a sloppy corpo salute.
I have plenty of insurance.
Not my kind.
I don't want your kind. I don't know what kind of a scheme you and Shad Ledoux are cooking up, but I'm not interested.
Ledoux is a fool, like most of the corpos. Hush and listen carefully. The People's Party has organized a resistance. Walt Trowbridge is in Canada. We're putting together an underground spy system.
Get out of here. I don't want to know anything about you. I got enough trouble.
Last week, 3 leaders were burned to death in Pittsburgh.
I can't help that.
A liberal professor's daughter was raped in Berkeley.
Last week, the body of a girl was found in the snow, right on the outskirts of Fort Beulah. You think I want to bring that to my daughter? Good day, Mr. Dimmick.
Hello. Oh, hello.
Hello. Goodbye. If you change your mind, you can reach me through Ed Sampson of the Burlington Paper Company.
Why were you so mean to him?
I don't need insurance, and it doesn't pay to get too chummy with strangers.
What's this? He forgot some papers. What's this? Washington Douglas Insurance Company? Americans, are you cowards? 96 sharecroppers killed by corpos in Arkansas. Rabbi Vincent DeVeras murdered.
Good Lord.
Dormus snatches the papers, grabs a matchbox, and lights them on fire over an empty waste bin.
That fellow, secret agent of a rebellion, trying to guilt me into joining them. Well, I'm not going to. I'm too old to be a hero. What could I do anyway? And if I got killed, what would happen to Mary? Half crazy the way she is over Fowler's murder? And Davy?
I'm glad you're being sensible.
Ought to get the county agent to write us a big story on Holstein breeding. Yeah,
Dormus
Holstein
opens the
breeding.
door to an older farmer, his hat in his hands.
My name's Veeder. Farm up on Green Mountain. I don't know so as you'll remember, but your son-in-law invited me to a picnic.
Oh, sure, of course.
Well, I always read the Informer, so I almost feel like you're my neighbor. So I thought I'd talk to you. My folks have been on the farm about 100 years now. Nice big house, 9 rooms. We even got a bathroom. We get along all right. Kids married, moved away. Last week, the Corpos moved 2 Corpo families in with us. My wife is poorly, Mr. Jessup, and these Corpos got into my hard cider and have been drinking and fighting, and the kids won't stop bothering my wife, and they're all over the farm, and your editorial told me to vote for them, so I thought maybe you could tell us what to do.
Mr. Veeder, if I only knew. Perhaps you can be patient.
Patient. Well, sorry to have bothered you. Good day.
Mr. Veeder, you won't do anything.
You know, I was nice to them all at first. Wiped the kids' noses, tried to take care of them, but my wife and I have an old lame crow we made kind of a pet of. It was always hopping around the yard. The kids took it and they tortured it, cut off its wings and staked it out on a bonfire with their parents watching them and laughing. The American people won't always be patient. Good day.
Life could have been pretty decent for us. Funny we never married when we had the chance.
Why don't we take the chance now? What else is left?
Well, I can't marry you. I'm not a man anymore. Frank Tesler had the right idea when he killed himself.
My dear, don't blame yourself for everything.
You can't depend on me anymore. I can't depend on myself.
As Dormus' words hang in the air, the door is boisterously thrown open, and Shad bursts in.
Hey, what are you two lovebirds doing? I have to cough before I come in. Oh, see, I know one thing you're not doing, Lindy, and that's reporting on the corpos. I just heard about another report you didn't type up. So one of these days, I'm gonna have to slap both of you down. Hey, you know, there is a little cutie pie slinging hash at the bean pot who would love to work at the newspaper instead. What's eating you, Doremus? Got a problem?
On the contrary.
Doremus rises from his little desk and goes to the telephone on Shad's desk.
You've persuaded me to... Toll line, please. This is Doremus Jessup at the Informer. I want to speak to Mr. Edward Sampson, president of the Burlington Paper Company.
What's the big idea?
I want to touch base with you or Mr. Dimmick. I've decided to take out some insurance. Lots of it.
It's a wintry evening outside of Doremus Jessup's living room a few weeks later. Julian Falk stands at the window, dressed in his corpo uniform. Lorinda writes at a desk, but frequently lifts her head to listen to the squawking radio.
And in Lincoln, Nebraska, Mrs. Leonard Minute, wife of a Congregationalist minister, was killed when drunken corpos fired through the doors of a number of houses. This is Walt Trowbridge of the People's Party, broadcasting from Montreal on the true state of affairs in the United States. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Steel Cartel gave a lavish party for President Windrip.
Anybody coming?
Nobody.
Take this to Dan. Story about the Corpus closing Middlebury College.
There's a patrol sneaking through the backyard.
Doremus! Corpos!
Mary appears in the door. She is barely recognizable as the smart and self-confident woman we saw in Act 1.
I'm heading out. For God's sake, look casual. I can't.
Mary vanishes mid-sentence, then reappears moments later with Shad and another corpo behind her.
These men forced their way in.
Don't think much of the corpos, do you, dearie?
Let her alone. My old lady feel the same way if anything happened to me. Sorry to bother you.
What is it? What do you want, my friend?
Come to bust all the radios in this block. Walt Trowbridge is broadcasting a lot of sedacious junk from Canada.
He reaches into the radio, yanks out the tubes, and smashes them.
Don't try to fix that.
Oh dear. I did want to hear the Smoothie Quartet on the Delaware Machine Gun Hour.
Well, I guess being old does have its bright moments.
How are we going to hear Windrip's 5 p.m. broadcasts from Washington?
That's it. Just because a traitor like Trowbridge broadcasts a lot of junk, decent people like you and I have to suffer for it.
Damn Canadians, we'll fix them.
I thought we were going to fix the Mexicans.
Well, sure, the Mexicans first, then the Canadians. Then I guess the South Americans. It's our destiny to be the greatest. God, I wish it wasn't so cold outside.
I'll get you some coffee.
How about some whiskey or schnapps? Hey, all you newspaper guys are boozers.
Doremus and Lorinda's terror, Shad starts for the basement door, where he knows Doremus keeps his wine and where Dan Wilgus is making pamphlets. Luckily, the door opens and Julian appears.
Yo, guys, what's up?
What are you doing here?
Pinching the old man's booze. I got the last bottle right here.
Shad snatches the bottle from Julian's hand.
So long, little buddy. We owe you a bottle.
Hey, I found that.
Yeah, but you ain't a sergeant, and you ain't out in the cold. Bye-bye.
You used your head, Julian.
And my brandy. Probably the last decent bottle in Vermont.
The basement door opens again. Mary and Dan Wilgus come in cautiously.
They gone?
At the rate they were drinking, they'll be far gone soon.
Here are the pamphlets for you, Lorinda. Can someone lend me a hand hiding the machine?
Julian and Mary follow Dan back downstairs, while Lorinda puts on her coat. Doremus helps her, and then she goes to the table where Dan has left the pamphlets and begins stuffing them into her pockets.
Try to get some sleep. If you start yawning at the office, Shad's apt to suspect you of something.
Well, be careful, won't you? Please promise me you'll be careful.
Careful as I can be.
Basement door opens. Julian, bundled in his overcoat, pockets bulging with pamphlets.
I'm off to the barracks with enough treason to seduce a regiment.
Good luck, Julian.
Thanks, sir. Night, Miss Lindy.
He'll be caught sooner or later. I suppose I ought to stop him.
You couldn't, not after what happened to Fowler.
Mary returns from the basement carrying 2 large market baskets.
Taking the big car. I'll scatter the pamphlets through Rutland and Woodstock. I'll try to make it to White River. Don't expect me back before morning.
Throw the pamphlets away if the patrols chase you, honey.
Doremus goes to her and kisses her. Even under his affectionate and worried gaze, her look is stony. He puts his hands on her shoulders and she winces.
What's the matter?
Nothing.
Are you hurt?
Flesh wound. It's all right. I put a bandage on it.
When did this happen?
Last night, a patrol fired at me. You heard about him. I ran him down. Oh, don't talk about it. It doesn't matter. Lindy, don't try to leave till I'm gone. And Dad, be sure Davy isn't reading in bed.
You'll be?
Yeah, oh yes, I'll be careful. I'll run down the driveway without lights. See you in the morning.
Do you wonder Julian takes risks with her as an example?
Mary under gunfire, you sneaking through the snow, stuff propaganda into mailboxes, while I lie snug between the sheets.
It takes grit for you to stay here, acting dumb while you worry about us?
Maybe. I learned something when they arrested the Bennington editor and tortured the poor devil into admitting he wrote my pamphlets. Tortured him while I had to sit here and keep my mouth shut. I think I had to do it. And I want you, all of you, to do what I did, to go on with this work, to keep silent, to forget me, to revile me if you have to, when the corpos do find the man who's been writing the pamphlets.
They'll never find you.
I hope not, but they probably will. Sometimes I almost wish they would so I could expiate. I killed Fowler Greenhill. This tyranny isn't primarily the fault of big business or of the populist demagogue. It's the fault of all the respectable Doremus Jessops of the world. I let those crooks come in. I didn't protest. Hell, I wrote the editorial that made people like Henry Veeder vote for them. I can't blame Buzz Windrip. It's us, the good citizens. It's me.
We're probably doing our plotting 2 years too late. Well, I don't know what to say. Let's just do the job.
Let me help you. Let me pretend I'm taking care of you just once before you go out into battle.
Doremus takes her hand and walks with her to the chair. She sits down and he, kneeling in front of her, puts on first one and then the second of her boots. She reaches out to smooth his hair gently.
But I want you to promise, if they catch me, that you will testify against me.
Would you do that to me?
If the cause demanded it.
Is any cause worth this?
No. Yes. I hope so. Everything worthwhile has been accomplished by the free, inquiring human spirit. Everything. Justice, equal rights, philosophy, science, and love. So preserving that spirit is more important than anything, any party, any flag, any social system, isn't it?
Yes.
More important than our lives.
Yes.
They sit silently together. His arms are wrapped around her. She cups his head in her hand. She reluctantly stands up, and he follows.
I'd better be going.
Lorinda, my dear, I'm going to kiss you now.
You are not. I've made a hard-hearted secret agent of myself. I hate sentimentality.
Lorinda marches to the door, where she pauses before leaving. Dan is coming up the stairs.
You may kiss me in the morning.
All right. Look, here's your notes and Lorinda's for the next issue. Hot stuff. Better hide them good.
Doremus picks up a worn red leather book and puts the pages in the middle.
I'll stick them between the pages of old Dr. Rabelais. That will make Lindy laugh. She thinks he's dirty.
Wouldn't hide them in a book. That's the first place burglars always look, so I've heard.
Oh, it'll do till morning.
As Dan leaves, Dormus puts the book in the shelf, then goes to the window. The wind is blowing sleet and snow outside.
Lorinda, Mary, be strong. Be safe.
Mama! Mama!
All right, Davy. Granddad's coming. He's still here.
Morning comes all too quickly.
Can I have some waffles, Grandpa?
A boy that isn't hungry enough to eat my oatmeal can't eat waffles.
Want to bet, Grandpa?
There is a sudden hammering at the door. Dormus goes to open it, and in comes Shad Ledoux.
Hey, we're having a book burning on the green tonight, and I know you got a lot of immoral books here, like subversive books.
You won't find any subversive books here.
The hell I won't. I used to work here. How about this one?
That's a detective story.
For the murder of Roger Ackroyd? This fellow Dickens, wasn't he a communist?
Certainly not.
Oh, I've heard of him. Like, seems like he did a lot of complaining about conditions. Guys ought to let that alone.
But shit, Lieutenant, that was almost 100 years ago.
Makes no difference. Dead skunk stinks as bad as a live one.
Alice in Wonderland, they'll laugh at you.
I'm gonna have a bigger blaze than Hillsborough. Prove that this town is twice as literary.
As we ponder Shad's logic, we see Lorinda coming in, almost staggering from exhaustion. She sees Shad.
It's Mary. What's happening?
Shad's having a book burning.
Hey, you see any bad books here, old lady?
Lindy.
Shut up, you.
It's that big red leather book in the corner, Rabelais. And don't let him tell you it isn't dirty.
Oh, dirty, eh? Maybe we won't burn this one.
Shad opens the book, and the papers Dormus had hidden the night before fall out.
Don't bother, just some notes for an essay.
Shad reads it with agonizing slowness, and seconds tick by.
Attention! You dirty old traitor. Who is in this with you?
In it with me? Nobody.
Don't lie to me. You three, search the place. Look for any papers with writing on them. Come on, get busy.
What is it, Grandpa?
Come here, kid.
Leave the child alone.
You keep out of here. I might forget you did me a favor. David, I won't hurt you. If you tell me the truth, I just want you to tell me, who comes to see your granddad late at night sometimes?
I don't know. They make me go to bed so early.
Go get that poker from the fireplace, kid.
I don't want to.
Oh, it's not for you. It's not for you. It's for your grandfather. Ain't that gonna be fun?
Suddenly, one of the corpos comes up from the basement carrying a fishing rod.
Lieutenant, he's as guilty as hell. I found a whole printing outfit hidden in the basement and a lot of pamphlets.
What do you have there?
Fishing rod. I always wanted one.
Put that down. Go get me a poker from the fireplace. Looks like that one's nice and hot.
Go upstairs, David.
It's all right, David. Better go upstairs.
Hush. You know you're going to a concentration camp. But if you want to get there in one piece, you'll start telling me right now who all these notes are for. Old lady, see, you tipped me off to this guy. I don't know what to make of you. I always thought you were sweet on the old man. Say, if you are and you know who he's been plotting with, speak up now. You'll save him a lot of grief.
I don't know anything. He was an old friend of mine, but if he's guilty, he'll have to suffer.
All right, then. Lay him out on the table, boys. God, I wish I'd brought a whip.
Corpos, holding Dormus, surround him and force him on the table. Shad stands back watching, and then his eyes fall on the fishing pole. In delight, he snatches it up and breaks it in half, just as one of the corpos brings over the fireplace poker, bright red at the tip. Shad takes the poker and hands the corpo, the whip.
Let's go, boys.
On a May evening of the following year, we are again in the Jessup living room. The bookshelves are now empty. A hole in the window pane has been plugged with cardboard. Mary, sad and still in black, sews a button on a shirt. Lorinda stands in the doorway. But the oddest change in the house of Doremus Jessup is the sight of Shad Ledoux taking his beefy ease on the sofa.
David, it's after 9. Come in.
I don't want to.
Young man, you march yourself in here right this instant.
Grandpa would let me stay out.
David.
Kid, you'll be all right once I get you into a corpo battalion.
David, you're not to wear that uniform ever again.
You mean he better wear it? It's protection for him. David, you wear your uniform. You got one on the other punks. You got yours first. That gives you a jump on them. And maybe I'll make you a sergeant in the battalion.
Hot damn, would you, Captain?
Go on to bed. I said maybe.
Yes, Captain.
That kid might grow up to be a captain, even if he has got a grandpa in the camp.
You shouldn't bite the threads, Mary. It's bad for your teeth.
Yeah, Mary always did have good teeth. Sort of goes with a pretty face, doesn't it, baby?
Shad walks across the room and places his cheek against Mary's.
Don't.
Hey, what's the matter? You should be nice to me. I'm running things now. Swan ain't been here more than once or twice this past year.
Your beard is hurting me.
Oh, well, I guess you just aren't used to a real man after that over-scrubbed doctor. Oh, so gentle.
No doubt you found that offensive.
You see, I might not be a rosebud, but I've done all right for myself. I got Frank Tasbro's son running the factory as my errand boy, and I got Doremus Jessup sent up for treason, and I got stuck up Mary washing my shirts. I love it.
You might have some sympathy for working people. You used to be one.
You make me sick.
You had to get that in, didn't you, Lindy? And you? I could get plenty of girls, good-looking girls. I'm not looking for any old sack of bones like you. You're cold as wet wash. And you're a lousy laundry woman.
Dad takes up a pile of clothes and throws them on the floor.
Fold the shirts again, Lindy. Please. Lay them over there.
Lay them over there. You ain't got the guts of a two-bit floozy. Come on, why don't you fight me, eh? Why don't you bite me? Who are you to get excited over? You're an old crow. Why aren't you scared of me? Put the lights on now. Put the lights out! I tell you, it's an airplane. Hope to God it's one of ours. It's the Air Corps. More than half the regular Army flyers are disloyal. They joined the rebels.
The rebels?
Yeah, they bombed Chicago yesterday.
They kept us from knowing.
Don't show the light. Just get away from the door.
I've almost forgotten that you could be scared.
I'm not scared. I'll fight anybody that fights fair. Dirty bastards. Jesus, if I had them down here, I'd grab them by the neck.
It fell near the railroad, I think. It didn't hit the town.
Come on down here and fight like men.
Get out of my father's house, you filthy coward. And don't ever come back here.
Mary turns her back on Shad and goes up the stairway.
What? Why does she treat me like that? What? Why do you always look down on me? God, I love her.
Shad.
Well, I've always loved her and wanted her. When I was selling her old man firewood, when she was married to that stuck-up doctor, and I used to work here.
Shad, you have got to leave here.
You get out. She can't hold out on me any longer. I love her. I love her, and I might die tomorrow. It ain't fair.
Shad!
He pushes her through the door and slams it. She yells at him and pounds on the door, but he pays no attention. He is stumbling up the stairs into the low light at the top of them. A cell in a concentration camp in Vermont. On each side are 2 bunks. The cell is low, narrow, and unlighted. There is no furniture except a stool and a couple of galvanized iron buckets, one for water and one for slops. The doctor, a brutal young man, is examining Mike, who lies in a lower bunk. Mike is too ill to do more than just raise his head. Sitting on the edge of the lower bunk is Doremus Jessup.
No, I won't give you any medicine.
But I'm awful sick, Doc.
Why, if you shut up and quit belly aching, you wouldn't feel so bad. Nothing but a lot of red tape certifying you guys dead. Hell, you're dead all right when we get through with you.
The doctor rings for a guard to let him out, and the two of them disappear down the corridor. Doremus walks to Mike. In the light, we see him and how filthy and scarred he is, in ragged shirt and trousers.
Nice fella, that Doc. Oh, man. Doremus, you have to go through with it. God, I wish I could take you just once to my favorite bar in Waterbury. I got the best damn mechanics in town hanging out there. Drinking beer, shooting the breeze. God, the fellas that just love you. Just be in a place you can speak right out without looking over your shoulder, man, with friends. You ready, Doremus? You ain't practical. Got your overcoat. You got your phony doctor's bag ready.
I'm ready. Imagine if I do get over the border to Montreal, Mike. Think about being in a place where you can speak right out without looking back over your shoulder. Think of it, a real job waiting. If I do make it over to Canada.
That's no job for you. No, you can't wash dishes in a hash house.
Say that to the best toilet cleaner in the whole camp. Nobody is as inconspicuous as a dishwasher. If I can sneak back into the States.
Hey, get out of the way, you bastard. I brought you a little playmate.
The guard pushes in a tall, thin man. He is so disreputable looking that we do not recognize him as Pastor Prang.
Another one of you intellectuals. None of you highbrows can take it.
The lie. I did take it. They beat me for hours and I didn't tell. I did take it.
Let me help you.
Bless you.
Doremus helps Prang into his bunk, and from it pulls out his own pitiable possessions, an extra pair of socks and a picture.
But brother, this is your bunk.
You keep it tonight. I know how you feel when they've beaten you. I didn't tell either. I didn't tell on anyone. They burned my fingers.
I denounce the sin of fornication, the sin of drunkenness, the sin of greed, and all the while I sin the sin against the Holy Ghost, the sin of the lust for power.
Brother, you sound like a preacher.
I was a preacher once. My name was Prang, Pastor Prang.
Good Lord, of course. I heard you on the radio when you declared for Windrip.
I've made atonement. I've been in 7 prisons. I spent 5 months in a cell with a maniac who tried to kill me in my sleep. But I cannot pray.
I know.
Water. I'd like to show you my house too. I almost got it paid for.
Try to get some sleep. I'll sit here by you.
By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion.
I'd like to see the upland meadows again.
How shall we sing the Lord's songs in a strange land?
Linda will be there. And Mary and David.
Ice cold beer. Doremus.
Guard!
What do you want? What do you want?
Wait, get the doctor.
Doctor's up in the commandant's quarters playing bridge.
But Mike's dying, Mike.
If he's dying, then he don't need no doc.
Mike, you'll be all right. Hold on.
Doremus, stay with me.
Doremus waits. Then he presses his fingers to Mike's neck. He puts his head down to his friend's chest. He closes his friend's eyes.
Now's your time to pray, Pastor.
Oh Lord, may I pray? Our God, receive this, our brother and our intercessor.
Prang stands in the middle of the floor, clear in the light from the door, his head uplifted. Doremus bends over Mike's body, his head bowed. Into the stillness, the door opens. A new guard enters.
Doremus Jessup, it's time to get out of here. Hustle.
Doremus takes a last look at Mike's body, then yanks a bundle and a long overcoat from under his bunk.
Take care, preacher.
The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord of freedom guide thy feet in all their perilous ways, until we shall both come at last unto his kingdom.
We are in the inner room of a Corpo immigration post on the Canadian border. Not too many days later. It's a dingy little room. On the wall is a smudged government-printed placard headed Instructions to U.S. Immigration Officers. There is a desk, a bench, and one pot-bellied stove. Against the wall is a small gun rack containing a few cavalry carbines. A worried-looking man sits behind a desk, and a Corpo private stands at the door.
All right, I'll see her. Why don't they close this godforsaken border?
The private gestures to someone in the outer room and goes to tend to the fire. Mary and David come in. David is wearing a raincoat.
Sit down. What's your name?
Mary Jackson. This is my son, Donald.
Your home?
New York City.
Passport. Why do you want to go to Canada?
Work. I have relatives in Montreal. They promised to find me a job.
Isn't there anything left for you to do in this country?
Attention!
As the officer jumps to his feet, Effingham Swan strides through the door. He wears a leather coat with a fur collar.
Who's in command here?
I am, sir.
I'm District Commissioner Swan. I have a convoy outside. I'm here for gasoline.
Gasoline?
Yes, not milk, not perfume.
I haven't been advised about any gasoline, sir.
My God, why haven't you? Our beautiful system. Look, we're cut off. The rebel air raids have wrecked the railroads. If I don't get trucks across the border, there won't be a Corpo plane in the air on the East Coast. Who's that woman?
Nobody, sir. Get out of here, you. I haven't got time for your passports.
Wait a minute. I've seen you somewhere before.
I don't think so.
Where are you from?
New York.
Sit down.
Donald, dear, take off your coat. It's warm enough.
Yes, Mama.
David takes off his coat. He is still wearing his Corpo uniform underneath.
At any rate, the kid's all right. He's in uniform.
That doesn't prove they're loyal. Did you ever drill, son? With the boys' battalion?
He's not been very well.
Yes, sir, I've drilled.
Where?
New York, sir.
You wouldn't lie to me?
No, sir.
Wait. Officer, unlock that gun rack and give me one of those carbines.
Yes, sir. It's loaded. Got the safety on, though, sir.
Swan takes the rifle and snaps the bolt and makes sure the safety is on. Then he tosses the rifle to David with considerable force. The boy catches it as only someone with training would do.
Pretty good. He caught it well, sir.
Quarter arms! Right shoulder arms! Port arms! Present arms! Quarter arms! Parade rest. All right. Sloppy on the quarter arms, but on the whole, very good. Who trained you? Who trained you?
The captain.
Captain who?
I don't remember his name, sir.
That's bad. Stand at attention! And you. Maybe you don't remember the name of Captain Ledoux?
I've never heard of him.
I've seen you somewhere. Have you ever been in D.C.?
No, sir. Well, yes, I was there for a few days.
Ever heard of a place called Fort Beulah, Vermont? Never? And you've never heard of Ledoux?
Never.
You don't remember how he looked lying on the floor with his throat torn open by a pair of scissors?
Sir?
Let me see your hands. I can see you've done hard work. Seamstress, laundress.
I take in laundry.
Attention! You know anything about it, son? You're a good corpo. You know it's your duty to report a murderer, even if it's your own mother.
I know, sir. It's right and glorious to kill for the service of one's country without regard for friendship or ties of kin.
I can see you've memorized the Winthrop Youth Manual.
From outside comes the sound of motor horns. The door is flung open by Private Julian Falk, in uniform. He no longer looks like the sweet boy next door.
Gasoline transport is here, sir.
Very well. Tell them to stop their racket.
Yes, sir.
Wait, don't go just yet. You are from Fort Beulah. Ever seen this woman before?
No, sir.
You sure?
Never before in my life, sir.
All right. Get out of here, officer. Clear them across the lines now. Make it snappy.
What about her, sir?
No, let her go. We haven't the time for red tape, anyway. The Jew was a bore and an oaf. This isn't the woman. I saw her once. She was smarter and much prettier. And her voice was different.
You're in luck, Mary.
Go on. Wait. Let's keep the boy. He has the makings of a soldier. Go on, and I'll finish signing these papers.
Come here, son.
Mary draws David in close for a quick embrace. Then quietly, she takes the gun from him.
Go on, dear. Outside.
Hey, put down that gun.
Walk away from the desk, Commissioner.
I'll let you go. I okayed your passport, Mrs. Greenhill.
I won't need it now.
Think of your son.
Go to the door, Commissioner Swan. Order the guard to pass the boy across the border. Have them send him back in here first.
Just drop this melodrama and you can go.
Give the order.
Corporal, send the boy in here, and when he comes out, go ahead and pass him across the border. I've changed my mind.
David comes back in. He sees his mother with the gun on Swan and stops.
Shut the door, David. My dear child, you're going across the border. Take my wallet from my purse on the desk. You're going to walk to the railroad station. Don't talk to anyone. Take the train to Montreal. Go to the People's Party headquarters and ask for your grandfather.
What?
Yes, Swan. My father and Aunt Lindy have escaped. David, grandfather and Aunt Lindy will meet you there. They will take care of you.
But aren't you coming, Mother?
When I can. Don't start toward the desk, Commissioner. I'm a good shot, a very good shot. David, until I come, Grandpa and Aunt Lindy will watch over you, and you've got to take care of them too. Try to remember everything your grandpa said or did. Don't try to understand. Just say to yourself, I'm Dormis Jessup's grandson.
Mama.
Go, dear. And remember America.
We hear the door open and close, and David is gone.
Now, Commissioner Swan, I am thinking of my son and of his father.
Then get it over with. Hurry up.
I'm not going to hurry. I'm going to give you the chance to remember and my son time to escape. And when that door opens, I'm going to kill you. Look at me, Commissioner Swan.
I knew I should have killed Jessup. And that nasty woman.
You? You can never kill them. Their spirit will never die.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waste of grain, for purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain. America that shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight to our production of It Can't Happen Here. We hope you enjoyed it. Now we have historian Tim Tyson coming to join us for a Q&A if you want to write questions into the live stream link. If you have a Google account, you can send a question. And we wanted to talk to a historian because we wanted to think about the ideas presented in this play in a historical context. So, hi Tim, welcome.
Hello. Good to be with you.
Thanks. Tim Tyson is the author of Blood Done Sign My Name and The Blood of Emmett Till. He's a venerable North Carolina historian. And Tim, maybe we could just start with your thoughts on the play and some of the ideas that it brings up for you.
First, I just want to say how marvelous the cast, what a marvelous job the cast did. And I love that the music too, which I thought was perfect. I was struck by right at the end, memory, she says, remember America. Our memory is presented as the key to preserving freedom. And that is so deeply true. For me, and I think reporters been calling me for several years saying, is this the worst time in American history we've ever had? Is this the most divided we've ever been? And I just want to laugh. And and I think about authoritarianism in America. It's really, we have a thick history of authoritarianism for, Native Americans and African Americans. African American history is a river of blood and this has been, so we've had authoritarianism with respect to African Americans our entire history to this very day. So for us to act like America is about, anti-authoritarians, it has to be remembered with that. America does have a deep anti-authoritarian history as well. And, that struggle has been, the struggle between those two pieces is what has led us to where we are. I thought the reference to Mexico was particularly interesting because, of course, a demagogue, quite a few demagogues led us into war with Mexico in 1848, and we ended up taking, I can't remember if it's a third or 2/3 of the country, but a huge portion of America is actually Mexico. And that was drummed up by, border incidents that were contrived and, racial resentment, and had everything to do with expanding slavery.
You're kind of getting into one of my next questions, which is, are there elements of the Windrip administration that you see as having occurred in American history? And I'm wondering if you could tie some of those ideas back to the play.
Sure. We've seen times when a national economic crisis that was freighted with racial and ethnic fear and resentment, and the demagogues advancing authoritarian politics. We've seen that quite frequently. The Reconstruction, the democratically elected interracial governments of the American South were overthrown by force. People don't realize it, but there were actually interracial, what we call fusion movements between 1865 and 1900 in every single state of the former Confederacy. And they were considerable. In 3 different states, Tennessee and Virginia and North Carolina, those fusion movements took state power. In North Carolina, the fusion movement swept the legislature in 1896, 1894 and 1896, won every statewide election. Both US senators and the governor were representatives of an interracial political coalition called the Fusion Movement. And the Fusion Movement was overthrown by force. You know, the government was overthrown. There's the Wilmington mass murder in Wilmington, but it's actually a statewide thing where African Americans are not allowed to vote because they're white men with guns guarding the polls, and they're keeping away known white fusionists too, who were banished in many cases. So, and shamed. In that history, and we saw the white supremacy campaigns of 1898 and 1900, which built, that's when Jim Crow was brought into being. And all the Jim Crow laws are passed between 1900 and 1910. Growing up, in North Carolina, as you know, everything gets inevitably better and better. We're just a shining arc of progress. So I was taught, and you know, so slavery was terrible and really bad and evil. And then next came segregation and Jim Crow, and that was bad too, but it wasn't bad as slavery. And then into full citizenship for African Americans, which was the shining city that I was growing up in as Jim Crow crumbled around me. But of course, that wasn't true at all. You know, we had slavery, and then we had full citizenship, and then we had violent overthrow of that, and then we had full citizenship again and interracial politics, and then that was crushed. So that, you know, it can't happen here. You know, it has happened here, and quite often. The paramilitary organizations, you know, those governments were overthrown by the Ku Klux Klan and the Red Shirts, these paramilitary organizations that were trying to kidnap the governor of Michigan, and that of which there are thousands and thousands of members all over the country.
How do you assess our current moment, Tim?
Well, it's a moment of great peril, enormous peril. But I believe it's a moment of possibility too. I'm a little bit optimistic, have a little hope at the moment, because I think Trump is crumbling, and I think Trumpism is going to be a source of shame. You know, 5 years from now, I think finding Trump supporters is going to be a little hard. Nobody voted for him, you know, because of the disgrace that he's done and the damage that he's done to our institutions and to the parts of our political traditions and civic traditions. I found Windrip's rhetoric amazingly Trumpian, with his attacks on young people and Black Americans, although I noticed the racial references are a little muted, quite muted in fact, but they're there if you're listening for them. The anti-Semitism, claiming everybody to his left is a communist. The charge that Americans have gone soft, that's the problem with America, you know, putting a kind of a hard manhood, you know, in the saddle. Use of the word treason all the time. Windrip's throwing his enemies in jail, and Trump's out there leading the lock her up, chant. And the very undermining of the idea of facts and truth, by so many falsities that that the whole idea of truth is sort of watered down. The patriotic, you know, fascism in America will come in the garbed in the clothes of patriotism. You know, and patriotism used as a club to beat down the American ideals, oddly enough. And the politics of manhood, there are many references to, you know, this person is unmanly, and that practice is unmanly, and, you know, all through the thing, there's a gender politics that rings in Trump's politics. I noticed this. I don't think Trump's politics and his personality are identical. We've had Trumpism, before, but he does have a particularly unique thing. And you notice Winthrop, his self-description of his childhood and his personality, and his war against the world, trying to, it just was amazingly resonant with Trump's accounts of his own life. And it's sort of, the authoritarian personality, I think it's.
We had to cut some of the play to make it a manageable time. And, some of the breakdown of Winthrop when he gets into office is also very similar to Trump. The very shallow hold on any kind of coherent ideology, very quickly breaks down in this play under stress, which seems to be happening out in the world as well. Do you want to speak to that?
Well, it is, the whole jingoism and Americanism, that whole language is very flexible on the one hand and herds people in all too easily. But on the other hand, that is very thin. And that, that doesn't keep us together very easily, because it's this gauzy sort of rhetoric that, when you start peeling it apart, we find ourselves once again, in different places and in better places. So that speaks to me a great deal.
This play doesn't really end on a hopeful note, except for, the people we've come to care about are part of a resistance. And I'm wondering how, if you'd like to, wondering what you think of the resistance today, what you find of hope and
I find a great deal of hope, actually. I've since 2007 or 8, when I started writing my Emmett Till book, actually, I was writing that, and there was a racial crisis in the country and a rising movement. And then I got caught up with Reverend Barber and the, Moral Monday and all of that. And so I was writing that inside a movement, those movements are strong. And that's been part of how the Black Lives Matter generation, who got mobilized by violence against African Americans by the police. But that and that is a legitimate. That's a very core cause, but it's actually sort of shorthand for rage. The enduring inequalities in housing and education, and really all the way that the denial of the full bounty of American life to Black people that we've seen. So that's, but that's brought us together in a certain way. So I think, the movement's strong. The biggest political demonstration in the history of North Carolina was in summer of 2013 in Raleigh, the Moral Monday movement, which the New York Times said had 90,000 people present. So it's a big, strong coalition, and it destroyed Governor McCrory. When those demonstrations started, he was running at 62% approval rating after 4 months of protest every Monday, being real clear, about what the things that we were discussing that week, going through what they were doing. A lot of stuff people didn't really know what they were doing. His polls by September 4th were at 34%. He went from 62 to 34 just by telling people what he was doing. And he never recovered. 39 months after that, where his polls are in the toilet. So I think a lot of times the worst things that are being done are just not well enough known. And so this is why protest is so important. And certainly we've got a lot of that, How many women were in the street? Was the day before yesterday? I've been a little lost in my work, but that's, I thought, you know, and the biggest march in American history was when Trump was inaugurated, the Women's March.
Yeah, I was there in my pink hat.
Yes, indeed. We were in our pink hats too, although we were in Raleigh, not in DC, but people all over the country. It was huge. And the one in Washington was just the biggest ever. So, you know, I don't think the spirit of resistance that animated, you know, the labor movement and the women's suffrage movement and the civil rights movement, the Black Power movement, I don't think that spirit has died in the least. It's a very powerful symbolic language and a very powerful example of organizing, you know, and that has been handed down at mother's knee for generations now. And everything we need, we have in our culture. And it's all available to us. And the values that we need, you know, can be drawn upon because we have this deep heritage of resistance.
And more voices are being heard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Who ever heard of a social movement? Black Lives Matter protests had 68% or something around there approval in America. No social movement ever gets like more than half. No. Social movements are by nature unpopular, at least in the broadest sense. You know, they may have lots of very popular in certain sectors of the population, but in general, people are queasy about that, the masses of people. So having nearly 70% support by, you know, Black people marching in the street is astonishing. And, you know, I can't tell you how many church groups have contacted me in the past year or so who want reading lists, or they want me to talk to about race and something to their history, you know, sort of teach Sunday school or something. And these are not activist people. These are, you know, sort of mainstream, bewildered and hopeful but very, very concerned white folks. And, you know, that's got me scratching my head. I'm delighted, but that gives me hope. Not the young people too have a very strong historical consciousness. There's a lot of reading going on in addition to the marching. It's rediscovered James Baldwin is quite popular now. You know, who most of the students over my course of my teaching career, you know, James Baldwin, they've not heard of him. They read The Fire next time, like, wow, how did I not read this? But that, you know, that's changing fast. It's the bestseller again, you know.
You guys want to say anything?
I think it's amazing that people are rediscovering James Baldwin and what he had to say, because it never would have happened a long time ago. A lot of people are saying it's a revisionist revolution, so to speak, but it's real, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we moved into Apollo Heights in 1970, and when the cars were on the side of the street, watch us move in, I was like 6 or 7 years old. I thought it was a parade. My mom said, no, baby, not this.
Oh, God.
Oh my gosh, that breaks
They
my
watched
heart.
us move into the neighborhood.
Yeah.
They were on the side of us and watched us move into the neighborhood.
Southeast Raleigh is going through some tremendous changes, and also but the downside is that the protesting and the rioting downtown Raleigh's kind of made the downtown kind of cavernous. There's not really much going on. So I think there needs to be a differentiation between people who are actually out to do good and those out to do bad. Because they're getting a bad rap. You know, I mean,
and the media never helps that. They always twist it.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah. And you know, they say that, well, when you got Black people in the street, some Black folks can't be out in the street because they gotta go to work. But you can't go to work now. There are no jobs.
Yeah.
Although we've been told that there are jobs. You know, I mean,
What are these jobs he's talking about? What are these jobs?
Yeah, what are these so-called jobs?
Well, the president told me y'all were doing great.
Not me. That's what he said.
Well, thank you so much, Tim. Any further thoughts? And by the way, this is Daniel and Danny Chavez and Kelsey Washington. What?
Warren. Kelsey Warren.
It's close.
No, I've been calling you that forever.
It's okay.
I'm gonna call him Kelsey Washington.
Let's face it, it's a really good name.
Kelsey Washington.
Sorry about that, Kelsey.
Washington.
But such great music tonight. We've really appreciated it. So any final thoughts, Tim?
I'll go back to memory. You know, we cannot locate ourselves in the unfolding story of this country if we don't know from whence we have come. So we need both a historical consciousness so that we realize we're not alone. You know, our ancestors are legion and have things to teach us, but also, you know, they had to step forward, without knowing everything maybe they needed to know, but go forward. And the movement will teach you. The movement will teach you what you need to do, by what works and what doesn't work so well. So I just think the message here is, remember America, and remember that America that represents the light, and step up into the light.
Mm-hmm. And that means vote, and that means get out the vote.
Yeah.
And with that, thank you so much, Tim Tyson. Thanks so much, guys.
Thanks.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you all.
Leslie, for producing.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
And crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shine in sea. And crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shine in sea. One more time. And crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shine in sea.